This episode is sponsored by Where to Shop and Dine. Download the app on Google Play Store or Apple App Store today. Connecting colleges and communities. Welcome back. You're watching Scene TV, and I'm Maya McNulty, your host. Schenectady Cable Entertainment News and Events. An exciting show lined up today. I am so excited to have my good friend Corey Aldrich. He's back in the studio to talk about Electric City Couture. It's their 8th fashion show.
Actually, 8th year. We've done about 12 shows now.
Oh, excellent. Well, thank you and welcome. 8th year. All right.
And I believe this is my 3rd year with you.
Excellent. Yes, I love having you back because I get to stay cutting edge on what's trending. And I'm so excited because you have a new venue this year. And we have gone around the whole capital region. We've done Schenectady, we've done Saratoga, and now we're headed to Albany for your fashion show, Electric City Couture, the identity show, right?
Yeah.
So good. So for the audience that doesn't know you as well as I do, let's speak a little bit about your career path and what you do for a living.
Well, I'm a freelance events producer, mostly. I do a lot of brand development, but I found over time that my expertise really favors building brands through monikered events. So, you know, Electric City Couture has been one of those that's helped to build some energy behind different organizations, specifically in Saratoga behind Universal Preservation Hall. But we've also worked with the Albany Symphony and a couple of other organizations. Enchanted City in Troy, which is a big steampunk festival that's going up. We did a big show with them last year. So I guess you could say the short of it is I like to produce events.
And you do them first class, cutting edge, tons of fun. So if you have never been to a Corey Aldrich event, make sure you sign up and get there. So Corey, tell us a little bit about your history though. You work in production and you're the founder of 2440 Design Studios. What exactly is that?
2440 Design Studio actually started out as a side gig for me. I used to work in real estate development, and I ran the marketing division, and so I wanted to do some extra projects on the side that were interesting. So my graphic designer at the time and I formed a company and started doing things, and then eventually it grew to the point where I wanted to start doing it full time, and it became a great mechanism for me to start working as a producer primarily with arts institutions or mission-oriented institutions. I have a real passion to work with people that are trying to accomplish something more than just make a dollar.
Yeah, excellent. And I see your passion has aligned with Electric City Couture, which is like the perfect marriage for you. So let's talk about the fashion show, the annual fashion show, and working alongside with emerging artists and the creative minds. So talk about that, because I know that's where you're really passionate. Yeah.
Well, Electric City Couture it developed from the first year where I was actually just brought in kind of last minute through a designer friend that I had. She was putting together an art fashion show at Proctor's, and I helped produce that show from the stage management perspective. And then after the show, I thought, wow, this is really interesting. And so Jolene, the person who was the founder originally of that first event, and I decided to form something bigger and decided to do something that would promote actual designers in our region. And from there, it just continued to grow. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And that was about probably like around 2010 that you started?
I think that was about
So
then,
it's 2017, fast forward. So you've learned a lot, and you're definitely, it's so inspiring. I've seen your shows. They're brilliant. They're fun.
Whatever she says, you should believe. No.
It's true. The clothes, the models, the fashion. Let's speak on that.
Yeah, well, as I saw the potential to use this more than just entertainment, but also as an economic development tool, specifically for the creative people who are trying to be a part of this industry in our region, we tried to bring in individuals, artists, performers, people with a high game that we could combine all together. And the concept was to create a showcase to show that, yeah, we have fashion game up here in upstate. It's not all flannel shirts and t-shirts, even though sometimes it looks like it is. But there's actually some amazing fashion designers that are within our region. And by region, I mean for us, Electric City Couture, when it's doing the mission-oriented shows like the big ones like this one, it's really focused on a 3-hour radius from Albany. So it does loop in the city some, so we do get designers from the city. But like even our designers from the city that'll be in this show, we have one, Olga Popkovich, and she is designing and doing her production work right in the city. So it's still New York State. So I feel like we're trying to do our part to help create a solution with a big problem in the world right now. One of the largest producers of waste in the world is the fashion industry. And I think it's one of the top 5 producers of waste in landfills.
Yeah, I've actually have a good friend that does yarn, darn good yarn.
Yeah, I know her. She's great.
Yeah, Nicole Snow, and
Nicole's
she's
awesome.
taken those remnants and turned it into a triple bottom line business. And we've actually had her on the show as well. And it's just phenomenal, the amount of fabric that goes into the landfills. Most people think that it's in the garbage and wherever it goes, but there's actually another source of income coming from that, and jobs, creating jobs for it. So that's really great. And do you use any of that repurposed material in your shows?
Actually, the sweater I'm wearing right now is produced by a company called Ecologic in Troy, New York. They've been in the show a couple of years. And she was one of the first sustainable fashion designers in the country. She's been in Troy for over 20 years now, but featured in Time magazine for her sustainable practices. She buys old cashmere sweaters by the ton, deconstructs every element, and then reuses every element, I think, except for the zipper. So she's like at 98% recyclability, and she's pulling tons of fabric out of the waste stream, repurposing it into these amazing cashmere garments, and then selling them direct to customer all over the country. So it can be done. It takes a little vision. It's not something that scales up super well if you want to do massive scale industrial production. But then again, there's some of us who feel that maybe a more regionally based production economy might be better for creating jobs than shipping things off to overseas.
Well, you know, we all have that been bitten, I guess, by the entrepreneurial bug, and it's okay to start small. You don't have to be the biggest shark out there, I guess.
Right.
So, you know, but your show has been attracting those types of people that are coming to see the sustainability work and the fashions and the art and the photography. So speak on that.
Yeah. After working with Ecologic, it was really an eye-opener. When we first started the show, we were packing a lot of boutiques into the front rows, trying to get them to purchase collections. And, you know, I personally helped sell a couple collections into boutiques in the region, and it felt like a real win, but I quickly realized that selling a 12-piece collection into a regional boutique that's going to cover the season, there's just not enough of that business here to sustain the number of designers that we need to be able to sustain here. So Kathleen from Ecologic had told me she had tried that route, started to go to direct to customer, and I realized there's this whole other world out there of designers who are doing that purposely because they like the scale. They can actually make a little more money by selling direct to customer, and they have an intimate connection with the people who are wearing their clothes, and it becomes kind of this really interesting dance. So I shifted the focus of the show so that we could kind of begin to support the people who are the makers. You know, there's a lot of talk in our economy right now with the current politics about bringing production jobs back to this country, and in some industries that's going to be very difficult. But fashion is one that we can actually make an impact because we have amazing and talented designers here, and why not put people to work here and producing these original and high quality garments and wearing them, you know? Exactly, and
what better way to start with the catwalk? So talk about some of the designers that are going to be in the show.
So this year I had mentioned we have the Russian designer from downstate New York, and she is also a fine arts painter. So she takes her paintings, transfers them to fabric, and then creates more of a glamorous style of clothing, more of a, it's maybe Olga, if you're going at, Olga Popkovich. So I think her Pop Impreska is the name of her line. So she's going to be kind of more like that fashion 40 kind of thing. I have another designer that's been in the show before. Her name is Marjolaine Arsenault, and she has a company called Marjolaine's Touch, and she does very high quality, like museum level felting. So the garments she does are mostly like shawls or throws or dresses. They're made out of single pieces of fabric that each garment might have between 20 and 40 hours in it. It's amazing.
Wow, that's impressive.
It becomes a labor of love, actually. They're made of silk and felted wool. So then I have a new designer who's kind of in the spirit of the original shows of Electric City. We're kind of revisiting our roots a little bit this year. Her name is Meg Klubel, and she's out of Clifton Park, New York. And she's a young up-and-coming artist who learned to sew by her grandmother. Her seamstress work is meticulous, some of the best I've seen. But she kind of is interested in the statement of fashion from an art perspective. So she puts like counterculture messaging on her clothing that's just made out of muslins and linens. But then it's got this very bold messaging on it that is sometimes feminist in nature and extremely compelling. I love what she does, and not many people have seen it, and she's about to go to FIT this year, and so I'm excited to kind of give her a bump.
She's really young.
Yeah, she's in her 20s, and she's kind of transitioning into trying to create an art fashion career. So we've already got magazine interest on her just from showing a couple of pictures of her work.
That's
it's so
brilliant.
Great. Then the headline this year is really thrilling to me, especially in the context of what the show theme is of identity. And that is Adam Van Buren, and he's been shown internationally. He's very much into the underground cross-dressing scene, and so his garments are incredibly fashion forward and over the top. Think like RuPaul kind of energy, and we're going to show people what happens when somebody decides to use fashion to be completely fabulous. But I'd love to talk a little bit about the identity theme.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, so there's a super interesting story of how it came about. Last year, we did the big show in Saratoga, and it was really impressive. And somebody approached me after the show and told me that there was a moment where one of the people in the sponsor area had been watching the show, and we had opened the show with a performer named Sybil Service. It was an amazing performer. And at one point, she had torn a skirt off, and underneath was this ornate origami garment that she had made, and it flowed onto the runway. So there was this moment where, when that happened, that this gentleman leapt up and he said, "Oh my God!" And then he stepped back and he said to the person next to him, "Wait a minute, is that a man or a woman?" and it was a good question to ask. Sybil is just fabulous. You don't really, from the costuming and fashion, you can't really tell. And I thought, what a beautiful moment where it didn't matter until someone thought it mattered. And in our current climate of identity politics and people getting really upset about shared bathrooms and things, it really impressed on my mind that we can use fashion and entertainment to pull people out of that headspace for a minute and just accept what they see in front of them as something beautiful, creative, and interesting, and not try and put that person in a box. I think there's a strong struggle right now, especially with the millennial generation, to try and break out of these boxes and to just express themselves individually. And I think what we're trying to do with this show is maybe try and put people in that headspace for a minute where they forget to ask a question like that and just enjoy the beautiful creativity of humanity.
Yeah, that's
human scale.
That is a beautiful sentiment. You mentioned something about the millennials. Can you speak on that, because they seem to be a big impression on the show this year?
Yeah. Well, because we have a millennial designer in the show this year, which we haven't for a while, that's going to help generate some young energy and buzz. But also, I think with Adam's line, there's a lot of millennial interest because of the hyper expression and creativity that's going on with that. So our shows generally attract a very broad swath of people, from people in their early 20s up until their 50s. It's a strong demographic crossover between ethnicities and genders. But you know, obviously it's fashion. It tends to be a little heavier on the female side as far as interest, but it's a lot of young ladies coming to the show because they love fashion or maybe have an interest in wanting to be a part of fashion. One of the most interesting stories I ran across was there was this little girl that came with her mom. Actually, someone called me and said, I have a friend, she has a daughter, they can't afford to come to the show, but she wants to be a fashion designer when she gets older. She was like 8 years old. So I said, don't worry about it, just come to the show. So the whole show, she stood at the end of the runway with her cell phone taking pictures of every look. I didn't realize this till later, but she went to the pop-up store after, met each designer, and asked them questions about their collection. And I thought, wow, this is like mind-blowing. This young woman is 8 years old, and already she's starting to see how to create an entrepreneurial path to becoming involved with an industry that she's excited about. And I just thought,
that's great
this
work.
is the sweet spot.
And that is good. That is a great story and good work. You also have internships that are paid this year, and Carmen Duncan has been working with you alongside with the Mission Accomplished. So talk about that.
Yeah, so Mission Accomplished Transition Services, which was started by Carmen Duncan, is an organization that is trying to create professional level skills and interest in young people in the inner city who may not get exposed to those types of things in their normal life. So she runs an educational program, and basically how I end up connecting with her was through Maureen Sager at Alliance for the Creative Economy, which is another not-for-profit organization that focuses on creative jobs in our region. So she had asked me about helping to start an initiative called Fashion Upstate, which is something that the Identity Show will be the launch of. Carmen will be the original partner with me in helping to spearhead the development of that, but we hope it grows much larger than just the two of us. But as part of that, and as part of supporting an economy that is encouraging younger people to get involved in the industry, Electric City this year made a commitment to bring on 2 paid internships for the show for a couple of her graduates from a fashion program that she's doing in Albany. So we're pretty excited about the idea. I think it's a great way to kind of stimulate an energy in these people to realize that you can get into this industry and you can be compensated and paid fairly in this industry. And when you're a creative, especially when you're younger, you want to be it so bad that sometimes you just won't worry about the pay part, and any sustainable career needs to provide compensation. So
yeah, I've been on both spectrum of that. When I was in college, I studied fashion, as you know.
Yes, I remember that.
And I worked with the Boston Designers Collaborative, and I didn't really care because it was just the best party.
So exciting!
It's so exciting, and I had so many stories. And look, I'm telling you a story now, and that's like, well, I'm not going to say how many years. 5 years ago.
The recent past.
Yes, and but they were just such brilliant. It was such a brilliant time in my life, and I'm still friends with many of them. And sometimes I'll see those designers when I'm going through, like David Ripkoff, for example. I'll be like, oh my God, I know him. You know, so it's kind of very cool. Denise Hajar, you know, you go to the North End in Boston. She's got a big showroom and a storefront, and I'm like, oh my God, I helped you with that. So it's really kind of cool, and it's great that you're taking the initiative with the kids that are actually from that 8-year-old to the internship to even working with Carmen, because she's fabulous, and we've had her on the show as well. So this year's main event, the Identity Fashion Show, it cannot be complete without the models. So let's speak about the models.
Yeah, so this year we'll have about 40 models in the show. And it's going to be male and female models, but we're trying to take a slant with these models, and I know some of them I'm going to be pushing them a little, but I think they're really excited about it, in that we're trying to put them in a new context where it's not the same old thing. Here's a men's suit, a man is wearing that. Here's a woman's dress, a woman is wearing that. So we're playing up on that a little bit to give the models an opportunity to express different aspects of their personalities. Some of the models we have are professional. They're out there gigging. There's one model, Jaja. She's in Paris half the year, and she's in the capital region half the year. So she's doing New York Fashion Week. But then there's aspiring young ladies who just want to get out there and push themselves and build their confidence, and so they'll get on the runway. Or young gentlemen. We had a guy that we featured in the show last year named Jay, and he had a predominant role as one of the characters in the kind of theatrical production we did for the last show, the Shattered and Repose show. And now he's gone out. He has a full portfolio. He's actually doing gigs as a model in addition to his day job. And I think this is becoming a platform for people to explore the idea if they want to kind of experiment with being in this industry. It's a difficult industry, but there's not a lot of opportunities to be able to do a real runway show if you want to get a taste for what that's like besides the Electric City show around. So it does attract a lot of interest from people who are aspiring.
Yeah, that's excellent. You know, starting out with Proctor's years ago when I have attended, speak on that venue and the gifts that you've left there. Like, you worked a lot with the arts, right, at Proctor's, and then you moved to Preservation Hall, and you've kind of, and not necessarily outgrew that space, but you've given it new life. So speak on that, and then let's speak on moving to the New York State Museum. Yeah,
so Proctor's, you know, is originally there was, the show was an expression of an art night initiative that was happening, you know, like our First Fridays and things like that we have in the region. And that first year, it was really, it was kind of ragtag, right? So some people had brought in trash bags and made fashion out of it. And so it was more like a recycled kind of fashion energy.
I think I remember that. I always thought that was bizarre, actually.
It's very similar to one called Trashin' that used to be in Troy. But, you know, when I saw what it could be, and Jolene and I talked about this, who was my partner at the time, we saw that it could build into something bigger that supported actual fashion designers. So we were very thankful to have that venue for 3 years, and to be able to kind of build this energy behind it. The Black Box Theater had the amazing 50-foot screen, so you could do great visuals and things. But it kind of ran out. That whole initiative kind of came to a close, and we were going to need to find a new home. And the director at Universal Preservation Hall, Teddy Foster, asked me if we would consider bringing it to Saratoga to help raise awareness for Universal Preservation Hall in their capital campaign to restore that amazing, I think it's 1870s church, their Gothic high bay church. So Saratoga was the perfect place for the next phase of Electric City, because there's more boutiques in downtown Saratoga than I think the rest of the capital region combined. I mean, it's very fashion forward and clothing forward, and we got some great partnerships there that manifested in allowing us to build that show to like an incredible level. I mean, last year we ended up, the third year in Saratoga, we had 3 days of fashion events, 2 full-blown shows, over 90 models in the show, 10 designers, a full-blown retail boutique. It was intense. But part of our contribution to Universal Preservation Hall was helping them in a much larger campaign to raise money for the restoration. So now they're looking at doing their restoration, and it was time for us to move on. So, you know, I had been recommended to look at the New York State Museum, and in the back of my head, I had wanted to produce an event there for some time. I'm friends with a couple of people who work there. And when the theme of identity started to come to mind, and I thought in the context of the New York State Museum, people have done fashion shows there on the concourse level area or other areas within the museum, but I wanted to be right in the exhibition space, because there's beautiful historical elements that have created the identity of New York State. So there's a little garment shop in there, there's an immigrant area, there's a New York metropolis area. So we're going to be right in those areas that show the fashion history of New York State, and that's kind of going to become the foundation underpinning for the context of what creates identity. You know, what is it that causes us to see something a certain way? New York State is a great state. Why is it great? Well, there's elements that make it great. So it tied in very well to this concept of what is identity and how should we kind of look at identity.
Yeah. So the next thing we have to do is get people to the show. I know that you'll be sold
Yes.
out, and you've been sold out
Generally,
every
yes.
single year, and it will be difficult to get tickets to the Identity Fashion Show. So tell us, how do we get tickets? And yeah, they definitely are not available at the door. So.
Well, we may have some available at the door this year. It depends how things go, if we sell out or not. Generally, we do sell out. So if you are interested in this show, I highly recommend that you purchase them in advance. You just go to the Electric City Couture website, which is electricitycouture.com. There's a link to purchase tickets there. We have general admission tickets, which are $20 in advance. And then we do have some tickets that involve pre-seating and VIP kind of treatment, and all that information you can find out on the website. But yeah, I'm like really excited, but I'm in the thick of like 1 week away from the show, so my head is in so many directions.
Yeah, so the show is July 8th, and it's
Thank
at
you.
8 o'clock at 222 Madison Ave in Albany at the New York State Museum. So this is so exciting. Corey Aldrich, I am so excited. The Identity Fashion Show. You look great.
Oh,
thank you for being
So
on the
do you.
show and sharing Electric City Couture with us.
Yes, thank you.
Always a pleasure. Thank you so much, and please attend.
Yeah, and hope to see you all on the runway. It's going to be a crazy fun show with lots of great entertainment, and I've got a killer DJ this year yet again. So
Yeah, well, we'll
Miss
see you on
Isis,
the
yeah.
catwalk. Excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching Scene TV.